Welcome back to the channel where I don't do enough background research and have opinions that people might not agree with, but that's the internet for you, baby. Today we're looking at my first ever public attempt at designing a PCB, which is my second ever, as I started one a while back that I just never finished. This design is actually already finished, as you saw before, but it was very problematic. So I'm going to go through the process and share what speed bumps I ran into and how I overcame them. Now this started back in mid-2022 due to the Athom Smart Plug, which I'll link to here and in the description. Now it was great, but it had some failings regarding the relay being on neutral, not live. This is fixed now, but I wanted to make something similar myself, and I also really like this little espressive riser board that they use, so I thought that's probably a good place to begin. To start with though, I had to learn how to make PCBs, and I thought EasyEDA is probably going to be a good starting point, having seen it used a lot in the past. Now I only had a few goals for this first module. It should be small. I wanted to use a modern and capable espressive SoC. For my future use case, I needed 8 GPIOs minimum. I wanted it to be vertically mounted like the Athom one. It had to have over 2 meg flash for over-the-air updates and related code if using ESP-Home like I am. I wanted to be able to flash or debug both pre and post installation. It should be pretty-ish, but this is a low priority. Now it should be cost effective, and that's a high priority. So as a first step, I started reading the specs for all the possible espressive products available. I didn't want just a chip, as that was too much work, but I didn't want a full DevBoard. The sweet spot was a module, which is about halfway between the two. And having looked at them all, I decided that ESP32 C3 was the way to go, specifically the Mini 1 form factor. This is sometimes also known as an ESP8685 if you ever see it called that. I chose this due to it being based on the risc-v ISA, running at a whopping 160 MHz, having 4 meg of integrated SPI flash, 400 kilobytes of RAM, 15 GPIOs, and in the variant we're using, a 12-bit ADC, wireless N with WPA3, Bluetooth 5 low energy and long range, and it only costs about $3. That seemed like a great price for the amount of functionality this had, making it as versatile of a product as possible. It's also pin compatible with the ESP32C2, also known as the ESP8684, which is a lower cost 2 meg flash variant, and I'm hoping that it'll be compatible with the C6. Now, it was time to read the datasheet and the technical reference, so I had a better understanding of what really needed to go where and what other components I'd need, and then any possible caveats. These are so long, but they do give you some key information. Here we can see how they recommend implementing the module, with some aspects left to the imagination, but most of what you need to know is there. The document also covers details like the strapping pins you need to know about, boot mode selections, and things like that, which are really important. So, with that under my belt, let's go down to the designing. I'm by no means great at this, and I've seen neater schematics. I could use nets and or labels better, but I haven't learned too much yet. Others also break the schematics up into sections and box them off, but I think this design is simple enough that that's not really needed. This is at least enough to get me going, and it's only a prototype. The bit where I really got held up though was the PCB layout. I'd not dealt with tracks and planes before, so this was a steep learning curve. In the end, I opted to use the internal layers as ground and VCC, and then use the front for the module and the back for the SMD components. That felt like a safe bet, but some may disagree, and look, I welcome all feedback. Once I was about done, this is what I came up with, and I was pretty happy with it. Probably looks familiar to you. I was of course scared that it wouldn't function, and you know what? All you can do is try. So I went and found a PCB manufacturer online, mostly comparing the top few, and just picked the cheapest. I figure there's nothing super complex about this, and it might not work, so I'll go cheap. I also jumped onto some online stores and ordered some C2s and C3s to test with, specifically those Mini 1 variants. I'm not saying which PCB, mob, or parts reseller I used, as they ain't giving me money for it. Now, skip forward a few weeks. These boards arrived in the post. I'm not going to bother showing unboxing, but 12 turned up instead of the 10 I ordered, so I figured there might have been a defect, else it might just be how the boards turned out. There's apparently a report you can read regarding the manufacturing, but I didn't bother looking for it. They look great though, and I ordered a stencil to make the SMD soldering a little bit easier. Now looking at some of these, and having pondered it the last few weeks whilst waiting for the shipment, I already want to make some changes. But there's no point doing so if these don't work, or if there's, other major hurdles, so time to solder. Unfortunately, one of them settled on the wonk a bit, but I fixed that later and just drew a sad face on it to identify it in case it didn't work. Then begins the end of no problems, which is where we kind of left off last time. I just gave up on that video. Firstly, I was trying to use ESP-Home, and the C3 wasn't fully supported at the time of testing. There is some support, enough for my use case, but it just wasn't having it. The next issue was that out of habit, I was flashing in QIO mode, which is all well and good and nice and fast, but it just wouldn't boot. DIO mode worked, and so the ESP-Home firmware might have been using some of the GPIOs required by QIO mode, or something else I've missed since the datasheet says that the SPI flash is integrated into the chip's package and supports quad SPI. After all that though, I just kept getting brownouts and resets. I couldn't figure it out. Having run other ESP32s off this same CP2104, it should work, and honestly, I was a bit heartbroken because it seemed to lean towards my PCB design being wrong. So I gave up for about 3 months. It's now 2023, and I wanted to use one of these for another project, so I had to get back to it. I thought I should take another approach in the debugging though, start with the basics. So I flashed it with the pre-compiled AT firmware from Espressif, and it worked. Information on what this firmware does is in the description for you. Next, I moved on to testing it with MicroPython, and it worked. I immediately started with messing with MicroPython, intending to join Wi-Fi and then launch WebREPL for some remote testing, but of course, it browned out. I wanted to faceplant the desk so badly. This very possibly supported my design being wrong, and it was back to where I left off last year. Keeping the principle of basics in mind, I checked the datasheet for the CP2104, and it should be good for 500 milliamps. I checked the datasheet for the C3, and confirmed that that was plenty. I then also checked the reference implementation to check the capacitor values, and those seemed fine. Like a mad scientist though, I also soldered another 22 microfarad capacitor on top of the existing decoupling capacitor to make it 44 microfarad in case of any power consumption spikes, but to no avail. Assuming the debug output is wrong, and it is a brownout, aka the voltage watchdog rebooted the unit because it measured the input voltage being too low, then perhaps it's just worth trying a different power source. So AMS 1117 time. What I did was use a common ground between the 1117, the 2104 and my module. I then used the 5V rail from the 2104, which I've turned into 5V mode to power the 1117, with the 3.3V output from the 1117 going to the power input of my module. Lo and behold, I booted MicroPython again, and I actually managed to join the Wi-Fi this time without it browning out. The dang CP2104 module just isn't putting out the goods like it says it should. That's a later me problem though, as it could be voltage drop in the wiring, external noise, anything like that. Next step, ESP-Home. This is mainly what I wanted it for, so it has to work. I added a new device, chose the C3 option as that's now there, and I swear I did everything right, but I kept running into blockers. I googled, I scoured Reddit, GitHub, I checked branches, PRs, issues, reread the ESP-Home doco, and even realised I have another ESP32 C3 chip that I'm using in ESP-Home and it's been working fine. In the end, I found one comment on one page that references using the dev version of the framework, and since they also specified the variant and the flash mode, although this should auto-detect, I thought it the best to do so. And success! So, my prototype actually works. I should actually test the C2s with the AT firmware, but they have the same pinout and power requirements, so I'm sure they'll work. They just aren't supported by Platform.io, MicroPython, ESP-Home, or Tasmoda as at the time of writing. And according to Espressif, they'll never be part of their Arduino library. Now I have to start designing version 1.1, and I've got a few ideas, but I definitely want your input. So far, I want to add the capability to have an optional LED that shows the boot and power status. I want to allow optional pads for reset and push buttons, as the current janky way is just way too frustrating. I'm going to add optional pads for a 3.3V LDO so that you can use 3 or 5V input. I want to make the board a bit thinner to make soldering easier, but also to make the required cutout a bit narrower, maybe 0.8 or 1mm. I want to make the text larger, as you can see, it can't be seen at all. I want to add pads for a micro USB port, as I found the C3 has USB built in, which is excellent. I want to space the debug pads 2.54mm apart if I can, so that they align with the CP2102 and 2104 unit pins for quick and easy debugging. I'm going to move the keying a little bit in to reduce the chance of this little finger snapping off. Going to make sure the pins are also spaced 2.54mm apart if I can, and add header holes. I know there's going to be pushing it at this point, but if I can, add header holes so it can be vertically or horizontally mounted with some header pins. And more than anything, make sure that the exposed track is actually a bit wider, as I really seem to do this wrong somehow. For this, I've decided to put it up on GitHub and create a Hackster project, as community input always helps with these things. I also went with version 1.1 since the version actually works. I'll put a link to all the resources below, and I really do welcome any input on this. I'm hoping to order some version 1.1 PCBs in the next few weeks, but there can always be a version 1.2 or a version 2 if there's some awesome improvements provided. Side note, who's numbering these things? Where's the C4 and the C5? Until then, which hopefully isn't long, that's all I've got for now. But thank you for watching. I hope this helped you either see how not to design a PCB, Helped you learn about expressive modules, see how the C3 MCU/SoC works with ESP-Home, gives you an intro to SMD soldering, or even just results in you winning a free board. It'd be great if you liked this video, if you made it this far, since you seemingly did like it, and the YouTube algorithm really looks after creators like myself when videos get likes. Don't forget to hit the subscribe to see more, especially part 4, which is going to be, hopefully, the big, fun, exciting one. And if you want to get an alert when I release the next video, maybe with version 1.1, hopefully with version 1.1 being made and working, also hit that little bell icon. I hope you're taking it easy and loving life, enjoying the end of summer or winter, depending on which hemisphere you're in, and I'll catch you next time.